Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to look at the question of when does the Guardians holiday special happen in the MCU? We're also going to look at several of the awesome Easter eggs that showed up, and there are a bunch, as well as some of the plot points that I think will carry over into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, there will be spoilers, so make sure you've seen the holiday special first, and it is awesome. But assuming you've seen it, then let's dive right in to what we can learn from the Guardians holiday special. So, first of all, Santa makes a big appearance during the opening comics montage at the beginning. And I'll be real honest, I was never a big fan of Santa Claus showing up in the comics. I thought it was kind of silly. They made him like this OP mutant to try to explain how he could do all the things he does on Christmas. All right, whatever. I mean, as long as they don't introduce him in the MCU, that's fine. We can have fun with him in the comics. So it was a nice little trip down memory lane of some of his great appearances in the comics. Then the Christmas-themed logo was awesome. Got us in the holiday spirit as well as in the mood perfectly for the upcoming holiday special. And that special had a ton of Easter eggs. Wow. So there was a callback to Kraglin, still not being able to control the arrow correctly. And hopefully by Guardians 3, he will. That'll be cool if he's able to use it. We also got to see Cosmo again, who's hanging out with the Guardians. Cosmo can now talk, either using a translator or just can talk and never had before, and uses telekinesis, which is really cool. So I can't wait to see Cosmo again. Cosmo was great in the Guardians holiday special. We also got to see once again how much everyone loves the Avengers. Ant-Man in particular, yes, but tons of Avengers show up in costumes. So that's pretty cool. It's just neat to see how all the folks view them as heroes and are happy to have them around. Then we had a real quick pass by a Kingo movie. So he continues to show up. In fact, he was in an earlier scene as well, one of his movies. So I love that. Then we got to see a really cool Easter egg that the little doohickey that Yondu has in Guardians 1 with all his other little doohickeys actually came as a present from Starlord to Yondu. That's pretty cool. So now we know where he got this little dude. And also, we know where Starlord got his guns, his iconic guns. He got those from Yondu. So really cool Easter eggs. Loved all of that. One of the biggest Easter eggs, though, was they're living in Knowhere. That's their base of operations. Yes, that Knowhere, from Guardians 1 that we first saw. Amazing. I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, first of all, poor Collector has not had a very good time in Knowhere. His headquarters are destroyed in Guardians 1, and then obviously in Infinity War, we kind of thought he was dead, right? Although I held out hope. If you go back and watch my first State of Villainy video, and of course I'm redoing that in just a few days, you'll see an updated version. But if you go back and look at the first one, I said he's alive. I didn't necessarily say it on facts. I did it more on emotion because I wanted a scene with Collector and Grandmaster. I want them together. They've got to. They're buds in the comics. They got to show up together in the movies. But I got so many comments saying, no, he's dead. He's dead. You're crazy. He's dead. So I'm really excited that they have now basically made him alive, because if the Guardians bought Knowhere from the Collector, he had to have survived Infinity War. So very cool. Love it. I love the Collector. Hope we see him again. Then the ultimate Easter egg is Kevin Bacon himself, obviously with a callback all the way to the first Guardians movie, additional callbacks in Infinity War. It was so great to see Kevin Bacon have a big role. I mean, he sang songs, he hung out with everybody. It was awesome. And I loved the little Easter egg where they mention not just Footloose, but his appearance in Friday the 13th, Part 1. And that was not his first movie role. I think his very first was actually Animal House, just before Friday the 13th Part 1 came out. But I love that they think he's the hero of the movie, when in reality, it didn't end too well for him. I'm not going to take the scene any further than this, because let's just say there's a lot of red, but not a lot of green. And it's Christmas. We're only going to go with red and green. But yeah, he don't make it through the movie. But that was a fun little Easter egg. Then probably the biggest, call it Easter egg or just call it plot progression, if you will, was that Mantis is Star-Lord's sister. Now, it totally makes sense, right? I mean, they're both birthed from Ego, but I just had never thought about it. So that is really cool. And what I love about it is that means they may be able, in Guardians 3, to pick up on the Celestial Madonna storyline from the comics. Because that was one of the big things that Mantis slowly evolved over time into this Celestial Madonna. And I remember how Steve Englehart early on was very upset with how Mantis was brought forward into the MCU because he felt like this isn't the Mantis I wrote. Well, I wonder if he's going to feel that way now because that was a huge part of the storyline. So that will be very interesting to see where they go with the fact that she is part celestial. Even if she doesn't emanate the celestial powers inside of her, you wonder, is it possible that they could be activated? So very cool. Also, interesting thing here, I guess the Legends episodes supposedly ruined this big surprise. Notice the Legends episodes only go up to episode 24. Well, if you had logged onto Disney Plus, I guess 2 days before today, there was an episode for Drax and an episode for Mantis. And they unveiled a deleted scene, which I don't remember has ever been shown. It's not on the DVD/Blu-ray, and it's not on Disney Plus. But supposedly in this deleted scene to Guardians 2, Drax and Mantis are talking about, hey, should you tell Peter about the fact that you're his sister? And they decide not to. Well, included on the Legends episode was this scene. And I guess there was enough outrage that in less than a day, the Legends episodes were taken off of Disney Plus. I'm assuming they'll come back. I don't know. I hope nobody got fired. But supposedly, if you saw the Legends episode, this big reveal was, well, revealed early, which theoretically Legends is only supposed to recap things we already know. So it was a mistake they included it. But man, tell me somebody didn't have a bad Christmas if they got canned for accidentally sticking it in there. But anyway, so where does Guardians of the Galaxy fall in the timeline? Well, obviously, no big surprise. Disney Plus stuck it at the end of the current timeline. So after Werewolf by Night, which I believe happens on October 31st of 2025, and after Thor Love and Thunder, which I believe is in probably early October of 2025. So I think, therefore, Guardians is in Christmas of 2025. Now, Wakanda Forever doesn't show up yet because it's not on Disney Plus, but I am just betting it's going to show up in between Werewolf by Night and the Guardians Holiday Special. So what does this mean, though? That means that Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special in late December is at most 3 months after Thor Love and Thunder in early October. So does that work? Well, one thing we learn is the Guardians have a new ship, which they've named after David Bowie, the singer, and it's the Bowie. We see it featured a lot throughout. I don't know. What does this mean? Is it impossible they could have got a new ship in between those 3 months? No, it's not at all. In fact, who knows? Maybe they got it when they bought Knowhere. It came along with the purchase. Plus, we know they raised a lot of money from doing all their adventures around the galaxy. They were saving up that money. Yeah, they could have easily bought the new ship in between. So I don't have a big issue with that. They did an upgrade since Thor Love and Thunder. But let's face it, the real issue is Groot's growth patterns, which I've mentioned this before, but there was a huge revelation which I think solves this problem. So stick with me. You might remember I've mentioned before that we see Baby Groot, that's from Guardians 2, in October 2014. Then we see Teenage Groot in May of 2018 around the Infinity War timeline. Then we see in Thor Love and Thunder, Teenage Groot. So it's like he hasn't grown at all. And again, he was blipped for 5 years, so we're only really talking about 2 years of growth, but it doesn't even look like he grew at all. Then suddenly in December of 2025, he's a behemoth. I admit that makes the placement that I have for Thor Love and Thunder tricky. But check out this quote in case you missed it. Kevin Bacon says, hey, that man was a plant. And Kraglin says, oh, Groot, he's just a kid. I don't think he would have said that unless they think of him as a kid. So yeah, he beefed up. Maybe he hit puberty, if you will. And that's what puberty looks like for Groots. But the bottom line is they're still calling him a kid. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, it's a throwaway line, but maybe it would explain that, bottom line, we don't know this guy's growth patterns. We just don't know how they work. I mean, he may be able to power up at will. We saw him in Guardians 1 stretching his arms out and wiping out a bunch of people. We saw him making the protective encasement for all of the Guardians with his body. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting line. I think that's enough for me to feel comfortable that this growth progression is weird, but it works. All right. We do have a big question, though. Is Kraglin still married? Because we learned in Thor Love and Thunder he was married. We didn't see his wife. So was it a really quick marriage? I guess, possible. Or she's off making Christmas dinner, I guess. We just didn't see her. But yeah, that's kind of funny. So who knows if that was an accident or not. But maybe we'll see her again in Guardians 3. We'll see. But the biggest question that Guardians left us with is, did Bucky have the worst Christmas ever? I mean, worst Christmas ever. So I have no idea if this was a throwaway joke and they're going to pick this up again down the road, but I would love to see Bucky now ticked off that somehow they snuck in and stole his arm. Epic. And we know it comes off. You know, we learned from, of course, Falcon and the Winter Soldier that if you press it in the right place, it comes off. And if anybody could figure that out, it would be Nebula, who's basically, you know, a robot herself. So very interesting. I hope they pick up on it and don't just make this a throwaway joke that they don't explain, because it was funny, very funny. All right, so there you go. Merry Christmas from the Guardians, right? What a wonderful holiday special. So be on the lookout for my next video, which will be a recap of my rankings of all of Phase 4. So in other words, all of the movies and TV shows ranked from worst to best. And then after that, I got a bunch more coming. So in the meantime, though, if you could like this video, it'd be great. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more existing content. And in the meantime, we can enjoy the ever-expanding, ever-growing, ever-festive Marvel Cinematic Universe.